At 6:30, we got Fresno State, who went 6-7 last year, traveling to Kansas, who went 5-7. Kansas favored by 12.5 points on Fox. Mikey Keene went 277 to 393, threw for 2,892 yards, 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Elijah Gillum has had 121 carries for 466 yards and 8 touchdowns. Yes, he is their leading rusher. Mac DeLena has 64 catches for 1,065 yards and 8 touchdowns. For Kansas, Jalen Daniels went 171 to 300 last year, threw for 2,454 yards, 19 touchdowns, but 12 interceptions was a bad ratio. Devin Neal had 219 carries for 1,266 yards and 16 touchdowns, and Luke Grimm had 51 catches for 690 yards and 6 touchdowns. Of all those players I listed, only 2 come back for their respective teams. Elijah Gillum is still a running back at Fresno State, although he is no longer the starter. And Jalen Daniels is still the quarterback for Kansas, but they lose Neal and they lose Grimm, 2 extremely important pieces to that offense last year. Kansas was an extremely interesting team if you were watching them last year. They started out so poorly. Again, this was a top 25 team at the beginning of the year. A lot of people thought this was a team that could push for that Big 12 playoff spot. And they just fell flat on their face to start the year. And it was a lot of close losses. I will give that to them, right? They lost a heartbreaker again on the road to Illinois. They lost a tough one at home against UNLV. And everything just kind of spiraled from there. They gave Arizona State a close game. They gave Kansas State a close game. And it was just like they could never find themselves on the right end. And then the end of the year started to happen, right? Where they kicked Iowa State's butt. They kicked Colorado. They beat BYU on the road, and this was looking like the Kansas team we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. It looked like they started the season, I think, 2-6, right? And they just start rattling off these wins. They win 3 in a row, 3 over very good competition in BYU and Colorado and Iowa State, and this looks like suddenly a team that's unbeatable and looks like they're going to go bowling despite how their season had gone up until that point. And then the last game of the season, they get their asses handed to them against Baylor, right? That was not a close game. Baylor looked like the far superior team, and it looked like all the progress we made so far was lost. By the way, these two teams have never played. I normally mention that if they're two FBS teams or opponent, what the record is against each other. Fresno State and Kansas have never played, so this is an interesting one. You see this a lot in week 1 as you see two teams who've never played before, but Fresno State and Kansas have never played before. Fresno State is an interesting one as well because they used to be such a dominant force. You remember a couple years ago they beat Purdue. A couple years before that they beat USC. They beat UCLA. Again, this was a team, if the group of 5, if you go back 3-4 years ago, if you're ranking group of 5 teams, and if we had the 12-team playoff, Fresno State would have been in the conversations a lot of those years. This was a great Fresno State program for the longest time, and their head coach retired, and they've been trying to get it under this new guy. And last year it just didn't work out, right? Like 6-7, although making a bowl game is nothing to scoff at. They went 6-6 in the regular season, lost their bowl game to San Jose. I know they lost to who did they lose it to? They lost it to USF in a great Hawaii Bowl, right? No, wait, they lost it to I think Fresno State. Who they play? They might have played Northern Illinois. I forget. I think it was Northern Illinois. They played in the Great Idaho Potato Bowl or something like that. But this was a really solid Fresno State program for the longest time. This is a great opportunity for Kansas to get their bearings about them, right? Lance Leipold has done phenomenal things in Lawrence, Kansas. There's no one saying otherwise, right? But last year, they had insane expectations, and they fell way short of them. They're no longer the hunted, they're the hunters. So it's a great opportunity for Kansas to start the season pretty solidly, get their bearings about them. This game's on Fox, so it's going to be like eyes on it, especially week 0. We're all dying to watch some football. And if it's going to be honest, probably the best game on in the 6:30 window. Definitely the best game in the 6:30 window. Definitely going to be one of the better, I think, probably the best game in the late window, the 6:30, 7:30, which we're going to talk about those two games later. But Fresno State has a chance to come out and make a big statement, again, if you are a group of 5 team and you upset a power 4 team in week 1, suddenly you are going to be a team a lot of people are going to be talking for that 12-team playoff spot. I don't know if that's fair, but I do think it is a great opportunity for these teams, right? Fresno State has an excellent opportunity laid out in front of them to go to Lawrence, Kansas, and pull off a win. I'm not that sold on E.J. Warner. I'm not the biggest E.J. Warner fan. I do think Jalen Daniels, if he can cut down on his turnovers, has that arm talent that I think he can do a lot of great things. And so for that reason, I think Kansas is going to win this game. I know it's not a long shot. They're 12.5-point favorites. I think they also beat Fresno State pretty handily. Give me Kansas to win and cover that spread.